Mindy remembered that day well, probably because she had not slept well and something kept bothering her. In the end, she grew tired of the pointless tossing and turning and decided to start the day. The morning was overcast, but not gloomy. On such a morning, it's nice to sit in an armchair by the window, preferably with a fluffy cat on your lap and a fascinating book in your hands. Mindy leisurely brewed coffee in a coffee pot, toasted some bread, and hummed absent-mindedly. Her husband stopped in the kitchen doorway and watched her with a smile. Mindy didn't notice him. Wayne silently approached and hugged his wife around the waist. "You're like my dream," he whispered in her ear. "Me? Like a dream? Tell me, I'm curious. What dream?" He pressed his cheek against her temple. "Yeah, when I was 17, I used to dream every night before going to bed." "I can guess," Mindy giggled. "All boys dream about. Well, I don't really know about all of them, but I dreamed that I would wake up early in the morning, go to the kitchen, and there would be a beautiful girl, barefoot, with loose hair, wearing my T-shirt. She will be making coffee, humming, and it would seem like she had been living here for a long time. Like you." Mindy smiled. "Wow, I didn't know boys going through puberty had such romantic dreams. I thought it was just us girls." "No, it's not. Boys are romantic creatures too. We're just better at hiding it because it's not cool to be romantic. Only hardcore, only primitive animal instincts. But deep down, we dream too." Mindy freed herself from her husband's embrace and began setting the table. "And why don't you need to hide it from me?" "Well, you're my wife. I don't have to pretend with you. You won't stop loving me if it turns out that I'm not only thinking about conjugal duties." He took a sip of coffee and sniffed with pleasure. Coffee, toast, and a beautiful woman. That combination, my dear, creates the perfect morning. Mindy sat down across from her husband and shook her head dejectedly. "It's just a pity this morning will be over soon. I have to go pick up Grandma." "Today?" "Yes, you said yesterday that she called, asking me to pick her up. Have you already forgotten?" "Gee," he laughed, "I must have really forgotten." Mindy shrugged her shoulders. "Forgotten or not, it happens. But I remember, so let's finish our breakfast quickly and I'm off." Wayne set his cup aside and looked thoughtfully out the window at the overcast fall sky. "No need to go today, Mindy," he said. "Something's making me uneasy. A premonition or something. Why don't I call Grandma and tell her you'll pick her up tomorrow? Don't you know that in this area it's 1 in 10 calls that get through? She'll be so mad if we make her wait for so long. No, I'm driving after her today." "You shouldn't drive," Wayne urged. "Today they're predicting a snowstorm, and you have to drive 300 kilometers on the highway. Are you looking for trouble?" "Wayne, we have to bring Grandma back from the summer house," Mindy objected. "And if the roads are covered, then we'll wait a couple of days until they're cleared. We can't leave Grandma alone in the village. No, I have to go." "That's always you," grumbled the husband, and it was hard not to agree with him. Grandma was already 75, and she couldn't imagine her life without gardening. There were only 2 immutable truths in her worldview. The first was to go to the summer house as soon as the snow began to thaw under the first spring sun. The second was to stay there until the first serious frosts. And since it was impossible to change her mind, every year Mindy obediently drove her grandmother to the village in early spring, and, until late fall, she went there once a week, to bring everything she needed, to help with the beds, and just to make sure that her granny was all right. And already at the end of October, she always had a new, exciting puzzle: how to persuade her grandmother to return to the city. It was an intriguing puzzle because every time she came up with new reasons to stay in the village longer. Mrs. Nichols was a willful lady that could easily change her mind, so it was necessary to pack as soon as possible, put Grandma in the car, and rush to the city. Wayne couldn't stand his grandmother's whims, so Mindy had all the fun. "Wayne, Why should I be the only one who has to take care of her, help her, go back and forth in all weathers? She is your grandmother, after all, Mindy sometimes complained. I know, Wayne sighed, but I haven't gotten along with her since childhood. I do not know how to communicate with her capricious nature. Okay, if it's children, they are supposed to, but when an adult behaves like this, I'm quickly getting mad. Honey, but what if the forecast does not lie, and really a blizzard will begin? He asked anxiously. I'll go crazy with fear for you. Well then, Mindy smiled, I'll stay in town, and you'll drive after your granny yourself. When Mindy saw her husband's face change, she laughed and patted him on the cheek. Come on, Wayne. I've been driving for 10 years. It'll be all right. That's easy for you to say, he muttered, but didn't stammer any more about driving today. He waved to his wife as she drove away from the house. What a foolish stubbornness, he thought to himself. He knew Mindy would be more likely to go, the more he discouraged her. His feelings for Mindy were like a complex cocktail. There was a little pity, a drop of tenderness, and a pinch of pride. But not for her, but for himself. To charm a naive fool who had lived all her life in hothouse conditions, moving between lectures at the university, the library, and a hearty parental table, it was nothing, not a great achievement. But to conquer such a distrustful girl, prickly, with a difficult life experience, that's a victory. Mindy did not often talk about her past, but something Wayne still managed to understand from the meagre phrases that she occasionally dropped. Mindy lost both her parents at the age of 5. They were in a car accident. The girl was raised by her older sister Holly. Then she was about 20 years old. Wayne guessed that it was not easy for Holly at all. She had to go to her lessons, work at a part-time job, a lot, to support herself and her little sister. So her personal life had to be pushed far, far away, and for a long time. What kind of dates, what kind of parties, when you have a small child? Mindy had been practicing martial arts and snowboarding since she was a kid, all at her sister's urging. It was as if the elder one deliberately sought to instill in the girl the confidence and fearlessness that she so desperately needed herself, and she seemed to have succeeded. Then, much later, Mindy admitted that she was grateful to Holly for that. These lessons boosted her confidence in her abilities, and she did well at school. Eventually, she entered the college without much difficulty. She started earning early and asked her neighbour for a job in his car service. The man, of course, swore that he would never hire a girl for such dirty and hard work. However, Mindy promised that if she couldn't handle it, she would let him know immediately. Eventually, the neighbour offered her a position in the category of bring, serve, thinking she would be scared off by the smell of machine oil. Mindy was working diligently, and by the 4th month she was able to independently fix a breakdown in cars. The neighbour, shocked by her skills, admitted that he was wrong about her. You should continue to be as attentive, and in 6 months all these men will be outperformed by you, he said to her, pointing at his employees. And Mindy didn't disappoint. Within 6 months she was considered one of the best workers and earned a good income. She bought her first car for a small amount of money and repaired it completely on her own, without anyone's help. A car is a personal thing, she declared. It needs to be customized and adjusted to fit your own needs. No one knows better than me what I need, so no one else can handle it better than me. Wayne grinned. Yeah, Mindy was a tough girl. But it only looks spectacular. To everyone around it seems that a person was like that from birth, but in reality, cool is rarely the result of a carefree life, and that's certainly not the case with his wife. He felt sorry for her. Sometimes he did. Unfortunately, the forecast was correct. Mindy got caught in a blizzard during her journey. It started suddenly, with a few rare snowflakes hitting the windshield. Within 10 minutes, visibility was almost completely gone. Mindy turned on the windshield wipers, but they moved back and forth a few times and then froze. Damn it! she exclaimed, slowing down. "Driving without wipers in this kind of snowfall is like asking for a crash." If it weren't for the fact that Mrs. Nichols was already waiting in the village, fully packed and ready, Mindy would have returned to the city. Mindy tried to call the elderly woman, but in vain. Well, no connection means no connection, and there's no point in draining the battery. Mindy shook her head. "Indeed, I got into trouble after all. I should have listened to my husband." But Mindy felt sorry for Mrs. Nichols. She was lonely. Mindy knew it, and felt sorry for Wayne's spirited grandmother. Everyone had been driven away from her. Her husband, lovers, children, and even grandchildren. It was undeniable that the elderly lady had an unbearable character. But what could they expect? She used to be an actress. She was used to the spotlight, flowers, and applause from admirers. And then suddenly she became a wife and a mother. Instead of being on stage, she became a housewife. Instead of receiving compliments from fans, she had to support and praise her director husband. And instead of applause and flowers, she dealt with cranky children and their torn pants. So her career was over. How could she survive such a disappointment? Perhaps it was possible if she found her calling in motherhood. But Mrs. Nichols felt burdened by her children. She was tired of them. More and more often, after putting the children to bed, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat in front of the murmuring television. She used to prefer reading books, but now she found it too tedious, having to comprehend what she read. On the other hand, the TV was relentlessly showing pictures all the time, and it gave her the illusion of not being alone. On one occasion, she slept under the TV's movie so soundly that she didn't even wake up when one of the children cried. Fortunately, her husband arrived home and calmed the baby. He saw Mrs. Nichols sleeping on the sofa with an empty wine bottle lying on the floor next to her. In her dream, she saw herself as she was before, beautiful and young. She stood on the stage, holding delicate bouquets of flowers to her chest, as the audience applauded her, standing up. Her husband covered her with a blanket and did not wake her up, and in the morning told her what he had seen. Mrs. Nichols felt an overwhelming sense of shame all at once. She was ashamed of the outrage that had occurred, the empty bottle, and the fact that she had become a bad mother. From that day forward, she didn't touch a drop of alcohol, but it was truly difficult to stay sober amidst the ruins of her own life. "I should find work," she complained to her husband. "Even if it's just being a ticket taker, I don't care. I can't stand being stagnant at home. I need to be around people." "What about the children?" her husband reasonably asked, and the woman fell silent. Then her husband's father passed away, and they inherited a cottage. Mrs. Nichols vehemently protested against the idea of going to the countryside, but her husband remained resolute. "Children need fresh air," he said, "and it wouldn't hurt for you to be in nature either. Don't you understand?" Strangely enough, she found herself enjoying life in the countryside. Maybe it was the country air, or perhaps it was the rural silence. Suddenly, she felt reconciled with her current life, and the loss of the theatre and her ambitious dreams didn't seem so terrible anymore. She lived at the cottage until late fall. When she returned to the city at her husband's insistence, she once again felt trapped like a captured bird. Her husband began to irritate her because he was there, in the theatre, immersed in art, discovering something new every day. Sometimes they would gather with their friends, and as Mrs. Nichols listened to the conversations of actors and directors, she felt robbed. Their lives were filled with excitement, arguments, new productions, and the art of dramaturgy. And who was she? A mere spectator in the feast of life. Did they even remember that she once shone on the stage? She would say to them, "Do you remember how I—" And they would respond, "Oh, your salad today is heavenly. Can I have some more?" At times like these, Mrs. Nichols wanted to take the salad bowl and place it on the speaker's head. But instead she would force a smile and push the salad closer to the guest. Deep into the night, when the guests finally left, she would wash a huge pile of dirty dishes and cry with resentment. Her husband always thought she was crying from exhaustion and offered to wash the dishes himself, but she only felt worse from his insensitivity. How could he not understand? What did those dirty dishes have to do with her tears? Only the village brought her comfort, and the woman counted the days until spring so she could return to the cottage. Her husband didn't object. However, as often happens when spouses spend a lot of time apart, a coldness began to creep into their relationship. At first it was just a slight draft, barely noticeable coolness, but it grew stronger over time. When Mrs. Nichols and the children returned to the city after the second summer in the village, her husband barely hid his connection with his mistress. Mrs. Nichols was already indifferent. Perhaps there wouldn't have been a divorce, but the humiliation of sympathetic looks from friends was too great. Upon leaving, her husband gave her the apartment and her favourite cat. The children, in a way, didn't notice their parents' divorce. They hardly saw their father anyway. Men periodically entered Mrs. Nichols' life, but they all seemed too ordinary, too down to earth, and quickly bored her. Children had grown up and were not too eager to spend much time with their mother. Mrs. Nichols didn't hide her disappointment from them, and often said that they had taken over her life. She also didn't have any special affection for her grandchildren, and her capricious nature from her youth had become unbearable in old age. Yet Mindy felt sorry for this woman who had wrecked her own life because she once sat in the wrong bus. Mrs. Nichols shouldn't have married or become a mother. The stage remained her only true love. Stupidity shouldn't be punished so cruelly. It shouldn't, Mindy thought. Her own parents had also died foolishly. Her sister, Holly, told her that their father bought a motorcycle in lack of experience. The road was slippery after the rain. Yes, that was real stupidity. And the result of that stupidity was 2 dead bodies and 2 orphaned girls. The snowstorm was getting worse, making driving difficult. It would have been better to stay in the city, wait out the snowstorm, and then calmly drive tomorrow after checking the windshield wipers, Mindy thought. But now there's no way. I have to get there somehow. If the snowfall hadn't been so heavy, she would have easily resolved the problem. But now the terrible weather made it impossible. Should I turn on the emergency brake? This thought came with a sudden attack of fear. Driving in a snowstorm without windshield wipers is difficult, and the duration of such weather is unknown. What if some reckless driver comes from the opposite direction? You may not have enough time to avoid a collision. No, Mindy, stop thinking mad. Nonsense. She nervously giggled. I've driven on this highway so many times. What can go wrong? I haven't had a single accident in 10 years. It's just panic. She took a few deep breaths. The fear, as if remembered by its sudden appearance, faded away. That's better, Mindy praised herself. A moment later, she instinctively threw both arms forward, trying to protect herself from a terrible blow. And then darkness and silence descended from above. The light from the nightlight shone through her closed eyelids. Did I forget to turn it off? Mindy wrinkled her nose and opened her eyes. Today she was feeling almost fine. Of course, her fractured bones still ached and movement was very difficult, but it was better than before. At least now, when Mindy woke up at night, she immediately knew where she was. It hadn't been so easy before. In the first week, she would open her eyes and feel disoriented, taking a few minutes to look around and figure out why suddenly the walls in her bedroom were white. And only then, slowly, Mindy would remember. No, she wasn't at home. This was a hospital room. Yes, it was an accident. Some crazy person in a roaring, huge SUV crashed into her car at full speed. probably losing control and veering into the opposite lane. Wayne said that he sobbed and swore that he would pay for Mindy's treatment, that he would take care of her as if she were his own. It was the first time this had happened to him. Then it turned out that he had just bought an SUV a week ago, and before that he had been driving a regular car. He hadn't yet gotten used to the dimensions of his new vehicle. So why did he go out on the highway during a snowstorm? Because of his foolishness and bravery. Mindy's car, her husband told her, was completely wrecked. He was afraid that he would be left a widower with nothing to bury. And I'm still alive. This thought always gave her strength, no matter what, despite the concussions, broken ribs, broken leg, broken arm, and dislocated shoulder on her other arm. Nothing. The bones would heal. The cuts and bruises would heal. But she was alive. In the first few days, the pain from her injuries was so intense that Mindy almost constantly slept under the influence of painkillers. When the pain subsided, it was the turn of the consequences of her perfect concussion. She didn't come up with that term herself. It was her cheerful doctor. "You have a perfect concussion," he explained to her, and his eyes were shining with childish delight, and he was rubbing his hands happily, probably from admiration. "Just like the textbook." His words filled with the joy of a scientist who had discovered a particularly valuable specimen in his collection, were a strange contrast to his appearance. The doctor didn't look like a scientist with a collection. He looked more like a rock musician. Long hair neatly tied back in a ponytail, a silver earring in his ear, and tattoos visible under the sleeves of his hospital uniform. Yes, he had a rugged exterior, but when he spoke, he was a typical bookworm. But who says that's a bad thing? "Yes," Mindy muttered wearily, her face swollen, especially her lips on the right side, and it wasn't easy to move them. "I'm glad I was able to achieve perfection in something, and they say it's unattainable. But if you try hard enough..." The doctor chuckled, but quickly adopted a serious expression. "It's good that you can still joke. You know, when a patient loses their sense of humour, it becomes harder to treat them, because it hinders their own recovery. But you're a real fighter, I can tell. Such people always get better faster." Due to her perfect concussion, Mindy constantly felt nauseous and dizzy. When she opened her eyes, the dizziness only intensified. As a result, Mindy spent most of the day with her eyes closed, avoiding any unnecessary movement. Her husband, Wayne, stayed by her bedside every evening. He kept her entertained with conversation, and when he grew tired of talking, he would play audiobooks for her. "She needs something calming," advised the doctor. "Avoid anything that evokes strong emotions. Stay away from intense literature. Meditation and classics literature are the best choices." "Not tragic dramas," Mindy chimed in. "Those classics make me want to cry and give me a headache." The doctor readily agreed. "Yes, tragic works of any kind are not suitable for you, but don't overdo it with light-hearted content either." "Yes, I don't think I can handle excessive laughter." Wayne downloaded audiobooks of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, and White Fang by Jack London. "These are the calmest options I could find. Just lie back and listen." "Thank you, Wayne." "I've also downloaded some meditations for you. They're for relaxation, energy and healing." "You should have downloaded me a meditation on how to accept my inability gracefully to even go to the bathroom by myself," Mindy grumbled. "This is so frustrating, but I'll get back on my feet, just to prove a point." She didn't specify who she was angry with. It was better to be angry than to be helpless. It was a deliberate choice. Wayne understood this and didn't attempt to calm her down. "How much longer are you going to complain?" he asked, intentionally tactless. "Isn't it enough that you endured a hellish snowstorm with broken windshield wipers? You did miraculously survive, but now you're resentful as if someone else is to blame. Well, let me tell you something. It's nobody's fault but your own stubbornness. Just lie down, listen to fairy tales. Maybe it'll teach you a thing or two," he said with a grin. Mindy grinned back, knowing that Wayne was purposely trying to provoke her. Mindy obediently listened to the classics and meditated. Gradually, she started feeling better. Soon she managed to stand up and even take a few steps. Of course, she relied on a crutch and her husband for support, but Mindy considered it her first small victory. One of the greats said that victory over oneself is the greatest of all possible victories, and whoever said it, they knew what they were talking about. Standing in front of the mirror above the bathroom sink, Mindy scrutinized herself. The black eye under her left eye had faded, replaced by a yellowish-blue bruise instead of the usual violet with brownish edges. Her lips were almost healed, but still slightly swollen, giving the impression that Mindy was a fan of beauty injections and had gone overboard in the noble pursuit of enhancement. The scratch on her left cheek had already healed, leaving no trace of a scar. But her hair, oh, what a tangled mess it had become. Even when Mindy was a child, she never had such tangled hair. "What should I do with it now?" Wayne asked guiltily, because he hadn't considered the care long hair required. Mindy attempted to lift her hand and reach for her hair, but it caused pain. "Oh, don't worry about it," she said nonchalantly. "Do you have scissors?" "Oh dear, you may have forgotten, but people rarely walk around with scissors in their pocket." "Well, then go to any hardware store and buy some. Let's cut off this nightmare." But the husband protested. "Maybe we can comb it somehow." "And then what?" she laughed. "It needs to be brushed every day, washed and braided. Who's going to do all that?" "But—" "No buts. Go get the scissors. My hair will grow back. Besides, it's a great opportunity to try out a new look." Wayne sighed and looked at his wife. "Are you sure you won't change your mind?" he asked hopefully. "I won't change my mind. Just go." The new haircut turned out to be very creative. All the tangles were cut off at the root, but some strands were still long. After evaluating the result, she casually asked to shorten the long strands. "You can cut it short in the back," she said, "but in the front we'll leave it longer. Well, about as long as your cheekbones." Wayne sighed and clicked the scissors ominously. "I shouldn't have agreed to this madness," he grumbled. "You're always pushing your position. That's it. Your new haircut is ready. But if you must know, I think it's terrible." But Mindy actually liked the haircut. "Look," she said as she struggled to reach up and touch her hair. Her lips turned white from the pain, but Mindy smiled bravely. "No more tangles now, and you don't even have to worry about styling it. Isn't that great? Just fluff it up, and it's already stylish." "You think so?" my husband asked incredulously. He himself was horrified by the result. Instead of beautiful lush curls all the way to the waist, she had pathetic pieces that hardly covered her ears. Horrible. But Mindy was happy, looking at herself, and was already making further plans. Besides, she got a doctor with unusual tastes. Seeing his patient with trimmed hair, he even clapped his hands with joy. "Oh, you have a new look." "Does it look good on me?" Mindy asked, twirling her head and giving him a chance to see her strange haircut from every angle. "It not only suits you, but you've been transformed into a very young, lovely girl." "But to me," Wayne interjected, "it seems like she has simply disfigured herself. Long hair is a woman's jewellery." Mindy cheerfully looked at her husband. "Hair is not ears. They will grow back." "But how long will it take?" "So what? But wouldn't it be nice to try to look different?" "I could dye my hair blonde." Mindy kept dreaming. "It would look good on me. And I could shave my temples. I could even do a pattern on this one. I've been wanting to try that for ages." "And a nose piercing," "Mindy, please don't make me upset." Wayne grinned. "Well, no, that won't suit me," giggled his wife. "It's a good idea, though." Wayne shrugged and left the room. Mindy bit her lip with offence. What kind of man is he, after all? Was it difficult to support me? Of course, I was sorry to part with my hair too. 10 years of growth, care, and now what's left? It's a shame. It was getting dark outside the window, and Mindy lay down on the bed again. She was still getting tired quickly, so she needed more rest. She found a meditation for peaceful sleep in her audio collection, turned it on, closed her eyes, and soon slept. And waking up in the middle of the night, she reached for the nightstand where the water bottle should be, but didn't find it. Wayne had forgotten to bring it. The mug, as luck would have it, was also empty. Mindy sighed and reached for her crutch. Now she had to go to the sink on her own. The water in the faucet was unpleasantly warm and had a strange metallic flavour. It was impossible to drink such filth. Mindy spit it into the sink and, leaning on the crutch, went to the door. The nurses at the station should have drinking water. A familiar feeling of anxiety, experienced before the accident, suddenly clenched her heart. She was very thirsty, and Mindy, trying not to make much noise, went to the nurses' station. She was lucky. Voices could be heard there. At least she wouldn't have to wake the exhausted nurses up. They had a tough job. But as she approached the nurses' station, relief melted away, replaced by bewilderment. No, maybe she was imagining things. But now, when she only had to turn the corner, she clearly heard Wayne's voice and another female voice coming from the corner. Mindy stopped and listened. No, her hearing had definitely not failed her. It was indeed her husband's voice, and he was saying some very strange things. "I've done everything in my power. What more do you want from me?" "Me?" a fierce female voice whispered. "I'm the one who wants something. You're a complete idiot. I've done everything." "Yes, but the result was not so good. She's alive and on the mend. You could have tried harder. Couldn't you have broken the goddamn brakes on her damn car? You just broke the windshield wipers. What a hero. Look at him." "Keep your voice down." Wayne raised his voice. "Why are you yelling at the whole hospital? I didn't break the brakes because—" "Oh, you don't know anything about it. Any expert will confirm that the brakes were broken, and that they didn't break on their own, but someone helped, and the wipers were a perfect idea. I've thought of everything." "Wow." The woman snorted contemptuously. "It's so cool. There are no words for it. You could also scratch the bumper with the keys. It's about the same in terms of effectiveness." "I've calculated everything. I specifically found out when the snowstorm would be. I specifically lied to her that my grandmother had called to pick her up. Mindy's just a lucky girl." "An 80-level planner, that's what you are. What are we supposed to do now? What about our dreams of getting rid of your wife? What about our inheritance? You promised me you'd take me to the islands, to the Maldives. You promised me a house by the sea. Have you forgotten?" "I remember," Wayne confirmed glumly. "Now forget it, just like I'll forget you." "Betsy, stop it," pleaded Wayne in a whisper. Mindy breathed in intermittently. "Betsy? Is that the same nurse who was always fussing, giggling, and preventing the doctors from doing their rounds properly? Yeah, that's her." Mindy remembered that. Seeing her for the first time, she heartily sympathized with those who had to work with her constantly. During this time, Mindy managed to get acquainted with all the nurses in the department. Betsy bored everyone. How many times, examining Mindy, the doctors on duty sent restless nurse then for some document, then something there to find out. And as soon as she left the room, sighed in relief and rolled their eyes. "Oh, Betsy," thought Mindy, "there is so much energy in you. You manage to annoy everyone at work, to get into my family, and dream of a house by the sea. Such a potential. Such restlessness. Mindy was shaking from rage. She barely kept from showing up in front of this sweet couple and not smacking them with a crutch. Nevertheless, she pulled her phone out of her pocket, turned on the recorder, and continued to listen, cold-blooded. "Betsy!" Wayne's muffled voice came again, and Mindy forced herself to stand still. This lousy story she was going to find out to the end. "Betsy, we don't need to forget anything," Wayne spoke hastily. "We'll have Maldives and a house by the sea. We'll have everything. Only for that you must help." "I wonder with what?" "Well, don't be modest." Wayne clearly smiled as he said these words. "You're a smart girl and a professional nurse too. And Mindy lies in the same hospital where you work. Well, don't you get it?" "No. What are you implying?" "Don't be stupid, Betsy. Think of something to get her to hell or paradise. I don't care. You've got all the facilities and access to all the medicines. In fact, think of something." "What?" Betsy was surprised and forgot that she had to speak very quietly. "Do you want me to kill her?" "Be quieter, please." "No. Are you out of your mind? Are you even thinking straight?" "How else do you expect me to get Mindy's inheritance?" hissed Wayne. "Only if she dies and I'm left a miserable widower. You know that the most important thing is to get rid of her, and the sooner we do it the better. Well, think about it. It's a very simple thing to inject her with something, and then you can always clap your eyes and say that it's an allergy that the patient didn't warn you about. I am sure you can find a good way, and no one would guess anything. Or did you buy your nursing degree?" "Well done," said Betsy almost with admiration. "That is, you have failed everything that can be. The goal is not achieved, and now you want me to get my hands dirty in blood? Don't tell me now that I didn't try. It's not my fault she survived. No one would have survived such an accident." "And then you'll turn me into the police, make them guess who the killer is. And then they'll put me in jail, and you'll be free with a lot of money in your account. What a wonderful plan!" "Don't be silly, Betsy. You know it's not true. Just understand, it's to our advantage, you and me, to keep Mindy here. If she comes home, what then? I can't keep track of everything and intercept her mail, can I? I intercepted the first 2 emails, but they can get her phone number and call." Mindy slumped against the wall, listening intensely. "What are they talking about? What inheritance?" "Betsy," Wayne continued, "you understand it would be better if Mindy went to the other world now, before she knows that her uncle is dead, and she is his only heiress. There's a lot of money there, Betsy. A mansion, several expensive cars, 2 liquor stores, which in itself is a real gold mine. I'm begging you, Betsy honey, think about it. You can't let such wealth slip out of your hands." Betsy sobbed resentfully. For a few minutes the silence was not broken by anything but these feigned sobs. "Well," said Wayne coldly, "then I was wrong about you. I thought we had love. For your sake, for our happiness, I dared to kill, and thought you too would be ready for anything, just that we might be together. Goodbye." Mindy heard a chair being pushed back. It was Wayne rising from his seat to leave with a mournful expression on his face. Betsy did not move from her seat, probably waiting for him to change his mind, to turn around. If he now turns the corner, Mindy promised herself, I will beat him with a crutch. She so clearly imagined this scene that she even tensed up, grabbed the crutch more comfortably, and felt all tingled with tension like a taut string. "Wait, Wayne!" Betsy could not resist, and rushed to catch up with her vacation in the Maldives and private house on the coast. Mindy grinned. Now her fury was replaced by icy contempt. "Wayne!" Betsy exclaimed. "My darling! I have just now realized how right you are. I'm ashamed, very ashamed of my cowardice." Of course you are. We can't let such wealth slip through your fingers. I'll try. I'll see what I can do. Are you sure? Wayne was still playing the unapproachable heartbreak. Are you ready to become a criminal? So that we could be together, darling. For you and our love. I'm ready to do anything. I don't care which one of us kills that fool. The only thing that matters is that we can be together. And nothing else matters. Nothing. Wayne did not answer. But now, instead of the tense silence, there was a slurping sound of kissing. Mindy wrinkled her nose. It's disgusting to listen to. Well, there's a good girl. I knew you'd understand, said Wayne after a minute. Betsy clung to him, hiding a victorious smile. Did he believe her? Oh, who cares? The main thing is that he didn't get off the hook, which means she still has a chance to get Mindy's inheritance, and that inheritance means a lot. Oh, how much it means to her. To get that kind of money means to dig herself out of poverty, to forget about her dorm, about annoying neighbours, to finally start to wear brand clothes. For that, she would do anything. Of course, she's not going to kill Mindy. Let Wayne perform that dirty work himself, or find someone else who agrees. That will be additional insurance if Wayne suddenly refuses to share the inheritance of the untimely dead wife. She will quickly remind him about the broken wipers and about how he managed to kill Mindy at the hospital. Wayne embraced Betsy and pondered how empty she seemed, like many other women. He believed that by manipulating them, that they could be easily controlled. Betsy would assist him in getting rid of Mindy, and then he would find a way to dispose of his troublesome mistress, and he would finally inherit Mindy's deceased uncle's estate. Unbeknownst to Wayne, Mindy stood just around the corner, struggling to contain her laughter. So, the inheritance. You two plan to bury me and claim money that doesn't belong to you, she exclaimed. No longer concealing herself, Mindy headed forward, creating a loud commotion with her crutch. Betsy and Wayne, startled by her sudden appearance, quickly distanced themselves from each other. Mindy smiled triumphantly. What a stroke of luck to stumble upon this scene, she remarked. Confused, Wayne frowned and asked, What are you talking about? And why are you up? I wanted to ask for some water, Mindy replied honestly, casting a scornful glance at Betsy. But it seems I interrupted something, didn't I? Sighing with relief, Wayne responded, Oh, it's nothing. You're just confused, due to your concussion. Let's go. I'll help you lie down and fetch you some water. There's no point in wandering the corridors at night. The floors here are slippery. Mindy looked at Wayne innocently and sang, I may slip and fall, and it may be fatal. Then my lovely hubby will inherit everything, including the inheritance his clueless wife knows nothing about. Isn't it convenient how little things can make a big difference? Slippery, mopped floors, or a broken windshield wiper at the right time. Hey, Wayne, why are you silent? Indifferent, Wayne shrugged his shoulders. I'm silent because you're talking nonsense. You've dreamed up some absurdities and mistaken them for information. You need rest, and tomorrow I'll talk to your doctor. You need something to calm down, and then you need to go back to your bed. Mindy took a few steps back, ready to defend herself. You've miscalculated, you fool. Have you forgotten where I work? Though you've never shown interest. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to your wife's business. Let me tell you where I work. It'll be useful for both you and your beautiful friend to know. I work for a company that installs video surveillance systems. So what? Wayne retorted. And, Mindy said with a wider smile, openly mocking him, we installed cameras in this hospital a month ago. Everything you do and say is recorded. Don't look at me like that, Betsy. It was done on the owner of the clinic's personal orders to keep this information secret. He probably already suspects something." "Liar!" Betsy shrieked, and Mindy lunged forward. "Let's verify it," she purred. "Stop it!" Wayne exploded. "Why are you trying to scare us? Do you think anyone will believe you?" "Maybe not me, but they'll believe the video. There's plenty of entertaining material on them. A passionate lover's quarrel, a murder plot, and a confession of attempted murder. There's enough material for a whole detective novel. I promise you, the police will find it very interesting. What do you think the punishment is for attempted murder? And for planning a second attempt? Do you know? Betsy, Wayne, did you ever consider the consequences of failure? Were you so sure of success?" Betsy covered her face with her hands and sobbed. "I can't go to prison. It's all him. I told him, but he was blinded by the inheritance. He broke the windshield wipers. He wanted you to crash, and I—" "The investigation will involve you as well," Mindy interrupted. "Now get out of my way and be quiet. I need to call the police." Wayne slumped into a chair and grasped his head. "Mindy," he moaned. "Mindy, don't! I don't understand what's gotten into me. Forgive me, I'm a fool." But his wife was already dialing the police, paying no attention to Wayne's pleading cries. "Mindy, please! We always understood each other. Can't we agree now?" She didn't answer, didn't even look at him. "Mindy!" Wayne continued. "What are you doing?" At that moment, the sleepy doctor on duty came out of his study and asked what was going on. The wheel of retribution has spun. Wayne and Betsy were taken into custody for the duration of the investigation. After that, Mindy called her sister and informed her that she was in the hospital. She didn't want to bother her before. Holly didn't hesitate to take a leave of absence due to unforeseen circumstances and came to take care of Mindy. Noisy and cheerful, within 5 minutes she already knew the names of all the medical staff and even managed to make friends with someone in the neighbouring ward. Throughout the month she never left her younger sister's bedside. She assisted her in walking, engaged in conversations, read books aloud, and when Mindy was allowed to watch TV, her sister made a large selection of comedies. Mindy was improving with each passing day. Even the attending physician grew fond of the two sisters and would drop by for a chat whenever he had a free moment. Mindy had regained her confidence and was ready to return to an active life. She wanted to go for walks, go to work, and finally cook a proper dinner in her own kitchen and eat it from her favourite plate. "I told you that you're a real fighter," the doctor exclaimed as he entered the room, "and I wasn't mistaken. You may not remember your condition when you arrived here, but I can't forget it. And look at you now. You've healed remarkably well, and you look great." "So great?" Mindy squinted. "Well," he quickly corrected himself, "let's rephrase it. For the first day after being discharged from the trauma ward, you look great. And considering what you've been through, how is investigation?" "I could say that there wasn't even an investigation at all. They confessed to everything themselves." Mindy casually waved her hand. "Amazing." The doctor scratched his thick beard. "It's simply unbelievable. I'm glad that justice has been served and that the guilty will be punished. But I always thought that criminals do their best to absolve themselves of guilt. And here, do you think their conscience tormented them so much that they confessed everything at once?" "Conscience?" Mindy sadly smiled. "Ah, doctor, you have such an unreasonably good opinion of those scoundrels." "But then why?" He looked so confused that Mindy couldn't resist winking at him. "Sometimes, if you want to win, you should confound your opponent with confidence in your own abilities. The key is to behave as if you have the truth behind you and an army armed to the teeth, ready to give everything for you, even to the last drop of blood. So I told them that the company I work for recently installed video surveillance in the hospital, and their curious conversations were caught on camera. There are no actual cameras. It's just that they were so frightened that they confessed right away. "Wow," the doctor said surprisingly. "So you were bluffing, like in poker?" "Well, yes, I bluffed, and as you can see, quite successfully." The doctor looked at Mindy in a new way, with curiosity, obvious approval, and perhaps a distinctly masculine interest. She noticed this and looked away. "You are a marvellous woman," the doctor finally said. "You were so quick to adapt, to execute a whole operation to apprehend the criminals." "And I put them in a proper state of remorse and resignation as well," Mindy added. "Yeah, I guess I'm a tough girl, but I'm not having any fun. I just want to quickly forget about this story and never come back to it. Do you know if there's a remedy that can help with that?" The doctor hesitated. "I think there is," he finally said. "It's an over-the-counter remedy, more of a folk medicine, but it is effective. First, make sure to get at least 8 hours of healthy sleep every night and avoid staying up late. Secondly, take daily walks in the fresh air. It wouldn't be a bad thing to get a dog. It will motivate you to go outside, even when you feel lazy. And thirdly, the third is coffee with a piece of cake, especially in pleasant company. If you'd like, I'm ready to offer my candidacy." Mindy laughed and extended her hand to him. "Deal." Wayne blankly waited for the trial. After confessing everything, he felt neither fear nor relief, only a dull, endless fatigue, as though someone had pressed a button and turned off his ability to feel anything. He didn't ask himself why he had decided to kill his wife. No questions or answers could undo what had already been done. He didn't worry about his future because he knew that his immediate future meant prison. It was all pointless. Wayne even welcomed this peculiar dullness. It helped him get through each day. His former life seemed more and more like a dream. As he waited for the verdict, he dozed off at the dock. And when he finally heard the sentence he had been given, he yawned widely. He didn't care.